Radiant team ban. TongFu's turn to pick Queen of Pain. Radiant team pick.
And we're back. Game 2 about to begin. Vici Gaming Potential taking on TongFu after a 75-minute marathon.
TongFu's turn.
Marathon ran by clowns, it felt like, you know. But it was fun. Game 2, though, about to begin, and it was TongFu getting eliminated from the Chinese qualifiers in Game 1 with a loss. They had a less than 1% chance anyways, but it's now official. This group is now a 3-horse race with CDEC, Wings, as well as HET battling out for the top 2 playoff spots. But guys, we've got a draft here. Vici Gaming Potential say Game 1 was too long. Let's try and end this one a bit quicker.
Yeah, they grabbed the Visage Drow right out of the gate. No messing around. TongFu going for that Winter Wyvern ban once again that we saw in the previous game. So it looks like not going to be letting VGP get their hands on that. And TongFu end up going for a Darkseer. So the double core opening here, probably going to lead into a few support bans from VGP. And I wonder what exactly they're going to try and get rid of. I guess they no longer have to really worry about the Broodmother, which a lot of people have been talking about as the big answer to this Drow Visage 1-2 punch. Though not that many teams, to my recollection, in this Chinese qualifier actually have a very practiced Broodmother. And I feel like that is something that you do need. It's not a hero that you can really just pick up and say, oh, you know, it's the same as every other offlaner. I avoid death and I soak and etc. etc. It is a very different playstyle, but the Darkseer's there, so.
If you look at like the top 6 to 8 teams in the world, they all, pretty much all of them have a Brood player, be it EG, Cloud9, Vici Gaming, IG, they all play Brood, even if it's not like a normal go-to staple. For some teams like Vici Gaming, they pick it more than others, same with Secret, but EG, Cloud9 will pull it out when they feel the draft calls for it.
Yeah. So. Okay, so for Vici Gaming Potential, their cards are on the table. They've very clearly stated their intent. This is probably going to be a 5-ranged hero lineup of some description. Maybe one melee initiator in the off lane, something like a Tide or something along those lines. But it's very clear what they're looking for here, and it's just up to TongFu to see if they can prevent it. I feel like the one ban that TongFu have kind of missed in going for the Windrunner and the Invoker is the Puck, who one kind of negates the Queen of Pain's advantage on the mid lane because it's not actually a winning matchup for the Queen. Puck has a lot of kill potential these days, especially with the new Waning Rift damage buffs. And it's also really good against the Darkseer. So I don't know, maybe Vici Gaming Potential not all that confident in playing it, but to me that seems like more of the ban than the Wind Ranger, but
could be a Puck for the offlane, but Viper a bit peskier, a bit maybe more push oriented. So you talk about having that tanky kind of offlane initiate. I feel like Viper kind of, well, not an initiator, fills that role. So
yeah, and we also talked about it in the draft of Game 1 that sometimes you don't even need initiator if you've got the constantly front foot snowballing lineup where your initiation is just going and hitting towers and daring the enemy team to do something. And that's exactly what Viper does. I heard him referred to as an anchor pusher, and that is exactly what he is. He just sits in front of your tower and hits it over and over and over and takes very little damage. And that's really all he does when it comes to pushing. Is this tower damage is not all that ridiculous, but it's just persistence.
All you need to do sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And also the other nice thing is it's a mech buyer for the team as well, which is something you definitely want when you're going for that 15 to 20 minute kind of push. And they'll have easy access into Roshan with Drow Ranger, plenty of physical damage. Visage can build into that Medallion or Solar Crest. So TongFu, they know it's coming their way, as you kind of said. The cards are on the table. It's always about can you deal with it, can you beat it. And there's a reason Drow Visage are picked up in the first 2 and teams unafraid to reveal what they're doing, because it's not something that's as simple as just say, oh, pick this hero or use this strategy to beat it. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, and it also in such a lane-focused patch, that's where the Drow Ranger is even scarier. You know, we talk about a lot of these mid lanes being very, very even. I think the skill level in terms of mid play, especially for this kind of event, is quite even across the board. Maybe a couple of players here and there, like CTY and whatnot, do stand a little bit ahead. or a bit above some of the other competition, but that little bit of extra damage, or what can end up being a lot of extra damage, does tip a lot of these matchups in one way or the other. And I'm already starting to worry a little bit for this Darkseer, as VG Gaming potential even going to add a Rubik into the lineup here. I feel like the Darkseer is going to get zoned out really heavily. We've seen a lot of level 1 Darkseers 3 or 4 minutes into the game, and this tri-lane has a lot of kill potential against it.
Now the Bristleback did lead into that IO pick, so maybe trying to beat Vici Gaming in the lanes before they can come online with their push with an IO Bristleback and just have a frontliner who can be sustained by the IO. But I like the Rubik pick. Null Field, another kind of underrated spell that can really come into play this game. Something that can help bolster up their push as well when they're trying to push into the Queen of Pain especially, who's got a magic damage coming out from the Scream, the Darkseer maybe just with a vacuum, whatever it may be, wall damage, so every little bit kind of helps against TongFu.
Yeah, definitely. He is not all that amazing against the Bristleback, so that's a little bit of a shame, but very good against the Darkseer, and I think a pretty solid pickup overall. I think something like a Lion could have potentially fit even better, but most of the time when we're seeing these strats to the Visage is taking the 4 role, and Lion is not the best 5 position.
The one here I like, which secret we're doing with their Draw Visage, is Dazzle, which I think gives you heal. The Weave is pretty useful against the Bristleback, who has a lot of physical damage. The heal can, over time, negate some of the AoE damage from a Queen of Pain. It's not going to help so much against the burst damage, but then you've got Grave as well as another possibility, but different, maybe just worried about their lockdown. If you go Dazzle, you have 0 lockdown. Not that that ever kind of hurt Secret when they've had, like, you don't need the lockdown. When you've got this 5-man pushing army, you just force the opponents to come into you because you're taking down their towers.
And I mentioned the puck as an option for mid lane, and you said that it could still end up being in the off lane. Looks like TongFu are going to give that some respect as they ban that out here. Ooh. And Vici Gaming potential end this lineup on a very strange note as they go for the Morphling, but it's not a core Morphling, it's probably a support lane.
You don't think it's offlane?
The offlane, yeah, support.
Oh yeah. I guess support, but
utility, whatever you want to call it, whatever we call the offlaners that don't right-click people.
And they're offlane, offlanes who, like, every time I've seen the offlane Morphling, it's always been super underfarmed, but like super annoying. He just gets all the early levels. It's like, it's great when you have a farming 4 position hero, because Morphling as a offlaner does not get much farm whatsoever, but it is picked up by Lin. I'm curious to see. Lin normally plays offlane for this team. It was only last game where he kind of did a bit of a role reversal, so we'll see if Lin will go offlane with this.
It worked out.
Yeah. Let's say after last game, it's like, Lin, you go wherever you want. Like, you choose your lane, you choose your hero, you do your thing. We'll follow you.
It's all up to you. Yeah.
But the offlane Morphling, I would like in general when you have that 4 position support who can benefit from the farm, because that's what Morphling's great at doing, creating space for the carries as well as supports to get farm.
I mean, one thing that we were kind of hammering on moving through the draft is that I sort of brought up the Lion and the puck as a way to help deal with some of the Queen of Pain's mobility, but the Adaptive Strike does that just fine, especially when you're a strength Morphling being played from the offlane. So they've got really good lockdown now to help kite around the Bristleback. They've got a better way to deal with the Queen of Pain as well. And we should talk about the final pick from TongFu as well, this Disruptor, who's starting to see more and more play as we go through this qualifier, but also as the weeks go by in the pro scene in general. I feel like he is a really hot commodity in terms of supports right now.
Yeah, and not like an obvious counter to many of these heroes. It's great normally against like the core Morphlings, because you can get the silence off him, especially if you get it before he starts morphing. But so one thing I'm a bit surprised by the Disruptor's pick, because there's not really any major use for Glimpse or even the Static Storm as far as silencing heroes. Like someone like a Viper isn't going to be too bothered by it, same for the Drow Ranger. If you're 5-man, you're not worried about Glimpse. You're also not worried about Static Storm for these right-click based heroes. And that's where I feel like Disruptor is a hero worth a lot more kind of notice these days, but less so against a Drow Visage draft.
Yeah, I feel like more than anything, TongFu have just kind of picked it to have a little bit more to combo with the Darkseer, since their lineup up until this point wasn't all that impressive in terms of making really good use of the VAC that set anything up. Of course, you know, Sonic Wave is great, but as we've seen, even with that really good setup, the Queen of Pain can often find a 3-4 hero Sonic Wave in some of these more chaotic team fights. So Yeah, I think that's part of it. I guess they also don't want to pick someone that's too weak in lane because they do already have the Wisp, and as a result there might even just be a dual lane making its way up to top, and the Disruptor's going to have to kind of hold his own in terms of zoning and whatever else he has to get up to.
Rupert going to go charging down bottom lane. Has boots and a clarity. I guess this is one of probably the few scenarios where you really want to have boots fast on Rubik is against that annoying Wisp plus Bristleback dual lane, although with that said, Bristleback is actually, we'll have to see where he ends up, but maybe going off lane with the Wisp or could be going safe lane since you have got Darkseer on your side.
Yeah, Dogfight with those boots is going to outrace TongFu, making their way down to bottom lane and prevents the Observer Ward placement, so nicely done by him there. Yeah, that's definitely a win. They're going to see his inventory, and it is going to give away some ganking intentions somewhat, I think. I feel like the plan for VGP is they want to take the Rubik and the Visage and maybe go and get a surprise kill, especially since you're not necessarily expecting these two heroes to rotate right from level 1.
The fact Visage bought like the sentries, the Observer Wards and all that.
Yeah, and especially given that the Queen of Pain is probably going to pick up, or might try and pick up Shadow Strike at level 1. As soon as you see the Shadow Strike used, if you've made your way over to mid lane with a smoke, you can find that kill right then and there and start to tip the balance on mid. But we'll see what he ends up doing with these boots. He is already running over to mid. Looks like he's going to be blocking, but is not being joined by James right now. So.
No smoke pickup as well, which makes it a bit harder. It looks like actually it's going to be Bristleback in the mid lane. U9 headed there with the support of the Wisp. It's going to be the Queen of Pain safe lane solo, which is going to be a rough matchup for Morphlane.
Yeah, they've cut down some trees over here as well, so TongFu in a pretty good position to take full advantage of this dual lane on mid, and we've actually seen this dual lane be very successful. I think the one game that comes to mind for me was a Bristle Wisp being played against Secret, I think it was, and I think it was Arteezy on the Shadow Fiend, and they're just absolutely, oh no, maybe it was Secret playing the Bristle Wisp, but there was absolutely nothing that Shadow Fiend could do. He just got dove time and time and time again, and his team tried to help him out, but the same could potentially happen here for the Viper. Does have slightly better control, I think, overall, and will be able to harass the Bristle a lot while the Wisp is away, but there's still, I think, definitely kill potential here.
And they can kind of bypass the magic resistance of Corrosive Skin because it's all physical damage. We can see here the Quill Sprays at mid doing a lot of damage, and they're diving this one. LPC starts taking a tower blow, but that's first blood going the way of TongFu.
That's only level 1 Quill Spray. You just have to respect the dual lane.
No Bristleback leveled up as well, just pure right clicks and quills, yeah. Nothing more.
All right.
Viper could have done something about it, and that was just played not as up in the lane as he was, but...
Okay, so U9 once again picks up the first blood. Similar situation thus far as the previous game. And we'll see if this time around things go a little bit differently if U9 does get off to an amazing start.
LPC is waiting in a really kind of aggressive position here in mid lane as well. Oh, glimpse back. No mana for a waveform out, but it looks like LPC may be considering going in here in mid.
Lynn's dead. He's blinked down from Kabu.
Yang is also dead mid, it looks like. TP coming in from Rubik. He'll have a live. Can he get another quill off in time? No, he won't. And Wisp pulled back in, bottling up in between right clicks. He's going to survive. Rubik's trying to get the kill. Tether back forward. It slows the attack speed. Styled upon by LPC. And that's another TP. A very long TP. Lynn, that's not going to work, my friend.
And LPC finds the bottle.
Let's just save those charges to share.
Yeah, I definitely think so. U9's waiting for him back in mid lane. Could even drop his bracer, get a little bit of extra regen out that way. LPC taking a very long, taking the long way around.
Worried
here.
about that Morphling,
I think
coming on through.
Could get another set of stacks up here as well. I think he's realizing, oh, I took a really long way around. Hey, there's some stacks right here. Let's set those up, and then we can go and talk about healing up. U9 on the mid lane, and just probably trying to kill the Viper again. Honestly, at this stage, they've already got their 1 point up in the goo, and not much has really changed except that TongFu are in an even better spot.
Back to the mid lane comes Wisp, and it looks like they want to go in. They have the nasal goo. LPC trying to hide around the poison. Can't bottle up for now, but we'll be able to do so soon. One more Quill Spray going to be needed. It looks like Yang brought down once more. Dogfight late on the TP, and Bristleback brought down with the tower, just barely. Gets the revenge kill, and Rubik gets level 3 off of that, but this has been a rough time to play.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it during the draft that these you're picking these Drow Ranger lineups so that you can get ahead in the laning phase and make really good use of the Precision Aura, but thus far it hasn't really been working out for VGP. They do have really good farm on XLL, but getting matched by Kabu over on top.
Dire's
And
top tower is
Viper
under
also
attack.
kind of picked as that lane-dominating hero, create an uneven situation on mid lane, and that's also not happening thus far. So that aspect of the lineup not there, and Visage just dies to red bottom. Okay. It's very low, but LPC is there to heal him back up. And
now has an urn as well. LPC going to refill his bottle and pick up some more wards for himself and his team. This is definitely one of the, I would say, one of the more successful ways we've seen teams deal with Drow Visage, because Drow Visage has a lot of offensive power, but very weak as far as when they put on the defense. If you're diving them, if you're getting aggressive, have heroes like a Wisp Bristleback who can gain some momentum, you cause
it's haste. I am Shell Wisp, James. There's no way out, my friend. He throws the Grave Chill, but the move click is going to come in, and LPC just runs him down. Oh my god.
Sad time. Solo kill for LPC.
Yeah.
That's his urn charges too. That's a big deal because these urn charges give you a lot of extra damage output when you go for a gank. 150 damage this early on can make a big difference. And he may just solo kill Rubik here.
Yep, with the urn charge, I think he might be able to. The spirits are down, but does he even need the spirits?
And
No urn yet. Okay, so Rubik's boots are going to save him there.
Probably had it if he had the urn charge right away and kept up with the spirits, but he had to resummon the spirits. But
yeah,
no big deal, just a Rubik kill.
That was part of why the play bottom was so good, because he actually put the spirits up as he grabbed the haste, so he had a second set ready for the Visage. So even if he hadn't got the block to prevent him retreating right back to the tier 1,
Dire's middle
I think that
tower
probably
is
would have
under
been
attack.
a pretty straightforward kill for him there.
Thinks about diving the Viper, but maybe just trying to bait out a TP here. Viper up to 12-1 charges. This way you have to be a bit more careful about diving in here, as Rubik already making his way back towards that mid lane.
There's his Tranquil Boots up now, so Dogfight's in a pretty decent position already, level 4. And as supports go, that's pretty much right on par. Lin also up there on the offlane has picked up some boots of his own, but needs to get those ferried out. And in terms of an overall lead, we're about 1,500 experience and about 3,000 net worth. The advantage for TongFu as we pass the 6-minute mark here. And yeah, this is definitely not the start that VGP were hoping to see with this kind of a draft.
Yeah, this is problematic for them. Drow will hit level 6, so they've now got the marksmanship giving even more bonus damage across the board, but you're playing kind of defensively here. You need Visage to somehow get some XP and farm somewhere at some, maybe not right this second, but at some point you need to free up a lane for Visage to get his level 6, which right now it's like, well, where's that going to come from? Because Viper's not ready to push with the team or leave mid lane until you've got like at least treads. Ideally you want like a butler, makings of a mech. Everything on the Vici game potential lineup has just been slowed down. All their timings, they're just not going to hit this game, at least not initially.
Yeah, fortunately they've got, you know, relatively item-independent offlane hero in the Morphling, so Lin with just his Tranquil Boots and probably a Soul Ring to follow that up is going to be just fine with his lot in life. And I mean, the Viper is struggling, but he's still managing to get a little bit of CS here and there, and should still be able to get the mech up at a decent clip. But the one big thing for this kind of dry lineup is being able to get those initial tier 1s, and that's where I really worry for VGP, because this Bristleback is big enough, he can actually just come and fight immediately. Red getting slowed down bottom, trying to get third off his immediate limp from dogfights. Tether attempted from LPC, but won't be able to keep him alive, but Kabu's now coming in, joining this fight. 3-man Gust comes out, XL gets the silence off. Looks like a few Rikers will finish him, but he does manage to drop the Queen of Pain, and it's a 2-for-1 thus far. Looks like dogfights might be alright. LPC's chasing for him, he's got this urn charge.
Boot, but hit him with the Spirit Balls, and that's a kill, but not enough movement speed coming out for the Wisp to keep up until he walks into him. Oh! Very close to bringing him down. LPC tries to chase a bit further, but
Best Tranquil Boots.
yeah, and one of those games LPC's like, man, maybe should have bought boots instead of my stick or something, but
Dire's middle
this-
Oh, he
tower
hit it
is
double,
under
yeah, he hit
attack.
this double damage. He just needed to catch up for one auto attack, and that would have been it.
that
But
was a big kill on Queen. Queen of Pain
Yeah.
TP's in, dies, and Dro even got money as well as experience for that, so Dro didn't come out too short-handed from that fight.
yeah, I think VGP definitely going to be happy with that. They also got a bunch of TPs down bottom. I mean, LPC walked in, but I think both Melody Lovers and Kabu both TP down to try and help out. So it's a little bit of extra economic damage dealt on top of everything else. The Drow's not too far behind either of the lead TongFu farmers right now. And Yang was pretty contentedly just hitting creeps mid in the meanwhile while the Wisp was away. So catching back up.
One of the bigger worries, though, when Vici Game potential are ready to go for those T1 towers is that TongFu are going to have a lot of farm, a lot of their core items. They've already taken out one of the stacks with the Bristleback. They've started stacking up the Ancients. They've got a medium camp stack. Although it looks like LPC is saying, I'm going to farm this myself. More than anything, I think he just wants his level 6, but
yeah.
Maybe going to take some of this farm and gold anyway, since that level 6 could lead to more kills and just help out his team overall a whole lot more. As there we go. Hits level 6, has a regen rune, and he's going to be ready to get ganked in here in a second.
Yeah, and we have a smoke picked up for Melody Lovers as well. So it looks like it might be Disruptor, perhaps, smoking down, getting into position, looking for a glimpse back into a kinetic field, and that's when the relocate can start up. And they can converge with 4 heroes down on bottom lane and try and find some kills.
Just a level 4 Visage. If you can get on that Visage, that you'll drop so quickly. There's no familiars in play.
And here comes the relocate. They don't even use the setup. The Gust is going to open up a little bit of space, but it's the Bristleback. He doesn't care too much. Nice little strong fights. Buys some time, but the Glitz is ready for Melody Lovers to bring it back. Kabu also making an appearance in this fight, as it looks like the Bristleback will be slowed up a little bit, but continues to fight through. She manages to turn it back as well. And Yang tanks the Sonic Wave. Don't think he's going to be able to get out of here alive. Will they deny him? In fact, he's got the Shadow Strike on him for a little bit longer. Lin considers it. Kabu clicks over the top of the tower as G9 continues pursuit here onto the Drow Ranger, tries to get out, but the kinetic field keeps her locked in place. G9 finds himself pretty low on life, wondering exactly where his Wisp is. The LPC is tethered over onto Kabu at the moment. More TPs coming on, and VGP don't want to give this up without getting any kills, but it looks like
Rubik got sent back to base as well on TPing in. Visage died twice during that one fight. Rubik died once, tries to TP back in on respawn and gets sent back to base. That is a catastrophe of a fight for Vici Gaming.
Darkseer just, wow, this is a build from Darkseer. Just, he's like, oh, whatever, we just got 1 million gold. Time to buy Blink Dagger.
Yeah, like, I have money for a mech. Who needs a mech?
I don't need no mech.
So, and with the changes to wall, it's a whole lot stronger at level 1. Like, you can get this and set up some nice combos very early on. Has 2 points in vacuum already, and
just another hero that can get in and change the positioning on the Drow, because as soon as if Darkseer blinks in and vacuums the Drow in trouble. Gust is going to buy a tiny bit of space, but it's about to wear off. Rain Charge is there. There's already 1-2. I think XL realizing that he's going to have to try and fight this one out. Lin does TP in and throws out the adaptive strike. We've got a glimpse going out somewhere. Relocate is just going to take the back. Safety Kabu still down here. They're only going to blink into the vacuum. Lin and James both in a lot of trouble.
There's the wall cooldown. I saw the wall go on cooldown, and it's in the middle of the static storm here as TongFu, they get the Wisp and Bristleback back into the action here. With Bristleback marching forward, they bring the Queen of Pain for the Visage, and Yang now getting low himself. This fight, not really seeing too much of it. There we go. LPC surviving in the trees, and for Vici Gaming potential, I guess it's about as good as it can get at this point.
No, but Yunan's not done, or maybe he is. Adaptive Strike's going to knock him back towards the tower, and it looks like Lin and Dogfights are going to be able to retreat out. It looks like this 2-1 tower could also end up being spoils of war for TongFu.
Yeah. So TongFu just have so much sustain with the Wisp, but they can't kill off LPC, and he did a good job of just hiding there in the trees. The fight ends up going well for them. That's without having a mech on their side, which is something which maybe U9 on Bristleback will consider, or even possibly the Darkseer will go back for now that he's got the Blink Dagger.
What has he picked up thus far? Just the Sage's Mask. He doesn't even have his Soul Ring just yet, so kind of looking at that. In the meanwhile, tier 1 top was taken out just by Radiant Creeps, and VGP are going to come in and put down some pressure on the tier 1 mid. It's actually dropped pretty low. LPC comes running in here. It's the Adaptive Strike. Soul Assumption coming out, and that's just a straight walk into death. I think he could have even just tethered back to his Queen of Pain behind the tower, but down he goes. Tier 1 falls as well, and VGP looking for more. Adaptive Strike over to Melody Lovers, and he is hiding in the fog for now. Not all that much mana, but he's charging in with an Iron Shell up. Yang getting slowed down. Tries to go this jump on his head, but he's pretty tanky. Still has some big charges. Actually manages to run out of it. Soul Assumption almost finishes off Melody Lovers. Looks like the Viper Strike will be enough to bring him down. Kabu trading right kicks, but gets knocked back by the Gust, and Dogfight's now running in. Still has the Wisp available. Flips up the Bristleback. Goes it back into the Adaptive Strike, and James just barely survives as this is going to end up being a team wipe in VGP's favor, 5-for-1.
And this is the stage of the game where you don't want to be giving momentum to a Drow Visage lineup. You get Visage level 6 familiars, there's some big nuke damage coming online, Morphling's ready to go, and suddenly Drow Visage should just push and take down towers and even take team fights at this point really easily. So TongFu just, I mean, they threw away all of their lead from that last couple of minutes.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught that, but I was really worried that there were two heroes pathing through by the edge of the wall, and the Visage was like sub 100 health, and I thought he was going to run into, or one of them was going to run into the wall, and the illusion was going to kill James, but sneaks around the edge there. And yeah, things looking really good for VGP after that. They've got a ton of farm on their Drow. Somewhat interesting build, picking up a Drum of Endurance. And what do you make of this, Guts?
Normally it's a Sanjin Yasha. This is like, what, poor man's Sanjin Yasha, kind of?
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit more of a value team item. I'm not sure.
Are you a fan of the race bands on Jar Ranger or just the Aquila?
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
I'm not sure. I feel like it's both work fine. It's kind of personal preference. If you're in lane where you can benefit directly from the Wraith Bands yourself, I think it's good. But just for the early game damage for your teammates, I don't think it's worthwhile. Like Viper having an extra 5 to 10 damage is not going to make or break the mid lane against this back. So I think the double triple Wraith Band only it's going to help you a lot in lane.
Yang, a little bit out of position here, but still pretty tanky as Unite comes in. Does not have the backup of his Wisp just yet, but there is a Surge, there is a Tether, and they are going to get Unite a little bit further out to safety. Got a regen rune at the ready as well to try and heal him up, but
they're doing this pre-mech as well. Viper's still working on that one.
But Viper in position, he's just right-clicking away. Dogfight's lurking around the edge of the fight, is level 8 now. And has the Spirit stolen at the moment, but definitely looking for something a little bit bigger if he can get his hands on it. Red's farming down here, and the only person who's off on the map is actually Kabu, heading towards top lane, about 500 gold away. Except in the blink, the back, it's on course, but they don't get the penetrate. Sonic goes down perfectly. Yang, the tank can keep on right. Actually, XL is trapped inside. Lin does manage to wait for him. Forward onto 4, catches at a couple. Sonic Wave stolen by Dogfights and thrown back onto U9, but VGP have already lost 2 of their cores.
He's got no damage left as well. Red's going to be able to chase down Dogfights, and Lin doesn't have an escape right now. He's going to get waveform out. Maybe he has an escape now with the TP. Anything to cancel. No glimpse for another couple of seconds. And Rubik actually got out as well. Okay. They saved 2, but it's still a poorly taken team fight for Vici Gaming potential.
Great setup from the Darkseer there. I saw some heroes walk out, and I thought that they hadn't caught anyone with the kinetic field, but I think XLL and one other hero from VGP were both caught out. So yeah, TongFu, I think going to be pretty happy with that one. Kabu's going to have his Aghanim Scepter completed pretty much after that fight. Only needs a tiny bit more gold. Rubik does manage to walk away with the Sonic Wave still in hand, so that's a pretty big deal. They didn't manage to kill him and remove that. Tier 1 tower does still stand at the end of the day, but that'll probably be picked up eventually by VGP.
See where VGP look to go next. This Strobe isn't something that you don't want to just slow down with, but at the same time, not really equipped to keep pushing. The one thing they really lacked there was the mech. Like, that full combo went off, and it didn't actually kill everyone immediately. If they had a mech there, just meant, like, Drow probably still ends up dying. Viper was fairly tanking the front lanes. Definitely would have been able to kill off the Wisp a bit quicker and do a lot more. And not having a mech there really cost Vici Gaming potential.
Yeah, probably getting a little bit over-eager, a little bit ahead of themselves. The last couple of fights had gone quite well. Then they had a bit of a head full of steam after the way that the mid-fight had gone. And as a result, they do end up being punished somewhat. We're pogoing all over the place on experience and gold, but we're back in TongFu territory for experience, about 2k. And about 2.5k net worth for them as well. What else have we got? We've got some arcane boots over on Melody Lovers. LPC is just grabbing some tank items, has some power treads, and a cloak right now. And interestingly enough, U9 is going to opt to complete the Crimson Guard as his very first item. Do you like this, or do you wish that this was a BKB or an SMY?
Even the mech, like a Vanguard mech maybe would have been more... Well, I would have personally preferred the mech, but I guess maybe he's thinking of Darkseer. Darkseer's actually picked up a Hedress, so it looks like Darkseer's going to run down the mech. But bonus armor definitely helps out. Roshan being attempted, and here comes VGP.
Have already been used. Melody Lover trapped inside of the pit. Everything is totally frozen as we jump out again. Looks like TongFu did manage to disengage, relocate actually going out.
That gives them 10 seconds to finish off Roshan on the right-hand side. Nice vacuum wall catches everyone with the Sonic Wave. This is going to be enough to get the kill on Visage only to start things off. And for now, Vici Game potential holding strong. The Static Storm going to cause them some problems with the waveform through. Finishes off Queen of Pain, and it looks like the Bristleback going to be Vici Gaming potential. So both Dro and Viper. They're looking to make a move back towards the Roshan. Brilliant potential now back alive. They know Roche is low and they want to make sure they can claim it for themselves.
So I'm finally back now.
Well, you're back. I'm going to reconnect.
That was strike on the United. He's got his side turn to the fight right. So that's the issue. They do have a lift. FAC thinks tethering in with the overcharge, trying to keep his hero alive, but the whip dies immediately. It looks like U9 will follow that one up as well. VGP not looking all that healthy, but the mech's going to cool down in just a second. And they've got some urn charges to throw around as they go in and finish off their shot.
Sonic Wave, not going to amount to too much. Actually, Sonic Wave stole the Roshan kill. Snatched,
okay.
But
so for anyone with China qualifier predictions on number of Aegis snatches, that's going to mess you up a little bit more.
I can't remember which region. I think I did SEA.
The most unpredictable.
Yeah. That was half the fun.
Anyway, Tabu in some trouble bottom lane. They still got the lift available, and yeah, one last auto attack is going to finish that one off. VGP, those buybacks turn out to be well worth it. I think that was a really heads-up play from them. They're like, okay, Roshan was low, we saw it. Everyone on TongFu have kind of spent all of their spells, the vac, the wall, the static storm. They hadn't used the Sonic Wave. Actually, they had used the Sonic Wave and cooled down again, as this is an Ag Sonic Wave, but really good opportunity there to go in, clean up the fight and take the Roshan.
Has hurt their item progression a lot. Still no real items on Joe Range. Has had this overfill for some time, but with the Aegis, they're looking to take down towers and take these objectives, and from there they're going to be able to find that income that they've kind of been lacking on their core heroes.
And a lot of gold on the Rubik and the Morphling, I think, notably out of that fight. Dogfights picks up a 4-staff.
Rubik's on par with the Viper and the Troll.
Yeah.
Same with Morph, basically.
Yeah, Dogfights is definitely making some plays here. Red just looking with the back. The wall, the static storm connect shield. They've only got 2 here. What did they get with this Rubik? He actually managed to get a wall of his own, but XL has already been brought down. Yang tried to fight through, but he's going to end up dropping and drown in the middle of 5 heroes here. It's actually only 3. TongFu have already lost 2. XL stands, gets a couple of auto attacks off. LPC hiding in the tree line. Does run in with their urn charge. He managed to find that power to kill James. Good familiar drop number 1. Doesn't micro the second one quite in time. It is going to be TongFu cleaning him up and taking the fight 3 for 3 with the Aegis popped.
Decent hold from TongFu. They do lose the tier 2 tower, but again, this Darkseer, his initiations have been on point throughout. Lin just vacated. I think he actually replicated at the end of that fight back towards the mid lane, maybe just deciding that it was kind of a lost cause as Vici ends up going down afterwards. And
yeah, I think as soon as the Viper dies and the Drow loses the Aegis, it's a pretty decent read to just say, okay, look, I need to get out of here.
And this is where just having, it feels like at this stage, 21 minutes in, Drow Rangers should have a completed either SMY or BKB, and same for the Viper. Viper didn't even have this Ogre Club during that fight. He picks it up after he dies and respawns. It feels like they're just missing that little bit of tankiness and just that next core item, which aren't even necessarily expensive items. Like a BKB on the Drow Ranger at 21, 22 minutes is not like some crazy amount of expected farm, but instead it's the Morphling top of the net worth chart, and that's not really what you want to see if you're Vici potential.
Yeah, I feel like the Morphling's item progression for this point forward is a little bit weird. Lin's picking up a Yule Scepter at the moment, which
you see like the Blink Dagger, if anything.
If he's really quick, he can use it to cancel relocates. If he sees the Wisp tethering in as the relocate is charging up, so it's good for that. If you've got vision over the Darkseer before he blinks in as well, you can do the same thing that you do with the Hex to prevent the initiation before he even casts a single spell. So I think it's good for that, but
they were so close to scamming this Disruptor with that smoke. Instead, they're going to find a bigger target in red and mid lane. Relocate coming in from the Wisp. That's ambitious. There's actually a Rubik wall waiting for the Wisp and Bristleback as they arrive. And that was a maybe a bit overzealous from LPC.
And it looks like Dogfights might even be able to get another use out of this wall of Replica that he has stolen right now. I think it was the rank 2 spell steal, so pass that around for a little bit longer, and VGP just setting up shop to get some pushing done here in mid. They do need to respect the fact that the Darkseer is respawning in less than 20 seconds. Kabu also coming in, or potentially coming in for the top lane to try and get something done.
I'll drop the tower quickly though, no clip available. And could consider going for a deny. Not going to have the He's sitting over his head. There's also counter initiation on the Darkseer. Well, that'll save his his life, but now instead they're going to find some new targets. It's LPC on the Wish. They're going to push towards the high ground. Really wants this kill, but Darksy's respawned. Now they're going to be wary of that vacuum initiation. There it is, vacuum wall. Catches a couple, the wall now comes out. TongFu going to repel Vici into potential. They bring down the Viper, and with that a lot of the damage output has been lost. XLL to Joe still fighting and holding strong. Kills off Darkseer. That's 3 dead. Only U9 as well as KaVu left alive and kicking dogfight. On the high ground, has a few spells left in him, and he almost kills off the Bristleback. And Axe ulti from Bleed of Pain gets James, and 1 or 2 more right clicks. Silences there. KaVu trying to chase down James. The Familiar Stun's available, and the Blink is going to come with a scream. And KaVu slowed by 1 cross arrow, hit by the Familiar Stun, but Dro wants to just get the hell out of there as TongFu start to respawn.
I wonder if XL could have... I don't know, he doesn't want to stick around. The Wisp actually has relocate back off cooldown as soon as he respawns. So maybe he gets 1 more kill, but I think he dies
Be careful
pretty quickly after that.
Oh, he's got a haste.
Oh, he's got haste. Never mind. Yeah. He is A-okay. He's used up all of his drum charges so far, but I think the move speed has definitely been helpful for his team, especially in just disengaging from the vacuum as well. You pop the drum charge, then everybody spreads back out and
running from Bristleback.
Yeah, that definitely helps as well.
Seen a few drum pickups against the Bristleback, and that's something where it helps your team as well as yourself.
Yeah, so we're still totally neck and neck at the moment. I feel like that does... I was going to say that I feel it favors TongFu a little bit, but I feel like that's just... I'm hardwired to say, oh, you know, the Drow Ranger lineup is going to fall off a little bit, though I'm not so sure. Viper can definitely go the distance. Viper, along with the Drow with Frost Arrows, are going to make life very difficult for the Bristleback moving towards the late game, and he is a very big source of damage for TongFu. So I think they do actually match up pretty well if this game drags on, and VGP at the moment are sitting pretty. They still got tier 1s up, they've got pretty good control over the map, and they're finding good farm, though they're sort of just doing better on average. KaVu and U9 still leading the pack.
I'm not a huge fan of how it's... I mean, it's not really by choice. It's just who's been alive and just happen to get kills in these fights. And that's where, like, ideally you'd want maybe a bit more farm on your Visage to have an Ag Scepter and a Solar Crest by this point. We want a bit less farm on your Morphling and more towards the Dro and the Viper. But even the Rubik feels like... it's great to have these kind of items on the Rubik, but not at the cost of your teammates. But
yeah, I'm questioning a little bit what the value of this double Yule Scepter between the Morphling and the Rubik is. Of course, it's a nice item. It's move speed. It's a little bit more control. You can kite it on the Bristleback, especially since he doesn't have a BKB. But I feel like you said, you definitely wish that you could transfer that gold to your Visage and you could give him an Aghanim Scepter and a Soul.
One of the nice things you can maybe try and do with this is counter the Darkseer combo. If one of those two heroes isn't caught in the vacuum wall, you can try and cancel the follow-up spell.
Yeah.
And prevent that combo from coming off. But, I mean, again, these are going to be those kind of fast... If you want to make these Yule Scepters worth it, you have to make those kind of plays. Cancel, relocate, prevent the Darkseer combo from going off when he blinks in with some Fast Fingers Yule's usage. That's going to be what can maybe justify these pickups.
Well, VGP, they're smoked right now as TongFu are going to TP in, looking to defend their tier 2. Going to try and stem the bleeding somewhat gold-wide, but he gets caught up off to the side. Red gets hit by the Adaptive Strike, and he's going to be brought down. The Yule sends melted over skyward, and he gets lifted up once again. 5 Intelligence, does manage to drop the Kinetic Field Static Storm, but Dogfight off to the side. And to use the Force Staff, KaVu trapped with the Adaptive Strike, and they're shifting focus over on U9. LPC going to do his best to relocate him over to the high ground, but he's only bringing back a corpse.
Oh, and
Bristleback's already gone.
Maybe going to be dying once more. Wisp.
Come on, KaVu just Sonic Wave him.
1. Can he get the 10? Oh, tries to get the 10 out. Nice lift from the Rubik. Brings it back to the low ground. They actually don't... I don't know if they realize right away that they actually hit that. Okay, we'll make sure they get the kill. As a stolen scream comes the way of the Rubik. And they'll get to T2 top tower. This is where potential... It feels like this is where their draft was meant to be, around the 20-minute mark, but they've reached the point that BKB on Dro, they're finding some good fights. Viper's now nice and tanky. Visage about to reach Aghanim Scepter in about 100 gold. It just took them a bit longer to get there than you'd normally think it would.
Yeah, definitely not as one-sided as we have seen some Ranger games be, but it's just that... It's that consistent power damage, and TongFu kind of having some difficulties now getting...
Very unforgiving. Like, you get one pick up on a Darkseer when he doesn't have buyback, and suddenly you've lost a team fight as well as a couple of towers. And in this case, it's a tier 3 tower going away of VG.
Oh, Red sizing up at the moment to try and drop a vacuum. Gonna bring Yang and XLL back in here. The Sonic Wave gets dropped as well, but the mech is already there. Red being focused, the Death Strike used, but the stolen wall comes out. XLL with the BKB does manage to find his way over to the high ground. U9 gets lifted and Viper struck. And he's gonna retreat back to the safety of his team. And defensive Yules from Lin sends him skyward as he will just replicate back to his teammates. And that's TongFu investing a lot, but not finding any kills.
Under attack.
And Potential just going to try to get out. They have to relocate to try and get some pickups here. Yules on a 4-star Favela, just going to use the TP out, and that relocate not going to come in time to do anything about it, as Io actually relocated back to base. Okay. Maybe it's either a double tap or just wanted to go back and heal up.
U9 realizes that there's still a tier 1 tower mid, so he's gonna give up on that chase over on the Viper, and you could just see it in the way that TongFu played after that fight. They knew that they'd invested a lot using the Static Storm and the wall and everything else, and not getting any kills there really hurts. I don't know if VGP will quite be able to pick themselves up and go and take another attempt at the racks, especially since there is an Ag Sonic Wave, but Roshan's respawn. So if they've scouted that out, that could definitely be what they look for. And
Get some
James is heading over there right now.
Darkseid Wall still in cooldown for another 20 seconds, so maybe a small window before that's available, but TongFu will be making their own move towards it. They've also got no relocate at the time being, which is another problem.
Oh, Red, he can put them all on the cliff if he knows what's going on. They've got some vision. The Dire have an Observer Ward. And Red's in a great spot right now. VGP needs to be very careful. If they can get the immediate lift of the Yules, they will be able to counter-initiate this, but they don't have good vision over this angle. And Red's looking for it. He goes jumping in, but the BKB's already been used. The Ace is going to pick up on the Drow Ranger. Now Red, the wall's in a terrible spot. He's going to get focused down as VGP managed to regroup the Static Storm kinetic field. It's going to keep them out a little bit, but they keep on charging forward. U9 looking for dogfights, but he managed to force that up onto the high ground. They run right past the Bristle onto the back lines. Melody Lovers drops. And VGP, what a fight for them.
I think it's the play you mentioned. Just try vacuum onto the cliff would have been... He tried to wait for the wall and then go for the wall vacuum combo and not even put anyone up on a cliff there. With the Drow Ranger, you trap that Drow up there. Drow's stuck and maybe out of the fight if you can fight around her range. Instead, you lose a team fight and suddenly pushing forward is Vici in potential with Aegis in hand and a lot of right-click damage with the Drow Aura. And Familiars are up top going for the racks.
U9, some blink out from Lin, zap the strike, so they're just going to focus on the objective now.
They're also getting up with it with the burst. Looks like James is actually going to lose his Familiars, or at least 2 of the 3. The best Mike coming out, but they want this either racks and no wall eventually still.
James in some trouble. He's actually just auto-attacking the buildings here. Realizing that he's dead as the clip's coming
100
back.
HP. Doesn't have the damage, unfortunately. I think they're going to go back in. Viper thought about it with the BKB, but not going to finish it off. And looks like for now, the melee racks will be left standing.
Viper got glimpsed and then just TP'd out as soon as he landed in the glimpse location. Oh, man. I think there's still one bird here. Yeah, there's still one bird that can try and finish this lane of rags.
Oh, LPC, meanwhile, he went actually relocating forward into his own death, potentially trying to right-click him down. The BKB throw will not work against the Axe Queen of Pain ulti. And Drow Ranger respawning in just a second. It's going to turn tail and run, it looks like. Will make it stand, but now LPC very low. That's going to be a target that's going to go get picked up again. Nice stats still coming into play here. Stolen blink from Rubik. Gets out, back to safety. Buyback from Morplay. They want to keep on fighting this on the potential side. Feeling like they can end the game here with one more team fight. With the back in the front line, slowed down. There's the Darkseid Wall. Vacuum not available in tandem with this, and as a result, VG and Potential not really walking into it too much. They're just fighting around it. 4 dead. It looks like U9 going to be the 5th. It's a team wipe for Potential, as they now march towards the Dire Throne.
I mean, they're probably going to end this right here. Yeah, there you go. LPC calls the GG, and that is going to be it for this series. As VG Gaming Potential walk away with it 2-0. It was not the cleanest win in Game 1, but
it was decent. I mean, not the perfect execution on the Drow Visage, but still really good mid-game. And that's where VG Gaming Potential, similar story to Game 1. It seemed like their decision-making and teamfight selection was a bit better. Game 1, we saw like some kind of unexpected pickoffs on some of the TongFu heroes. Again, I feel like the one big hero, Darkseid, got caught out way too many times this game, just farming on his own in important late-game periods. I mean, yeah, it's 25 minutes in, it's not really late game, but against Drow Visage, you lose your Darkseid and suddenly you've lost a lane of racks, or even worse has happened. So
yeah, and for VGP, I think the coordination in the team fights was great as well.
Yes.
They managed to fight around all of the AoE ultimates really well, and then the focus fire and the control was also impeccable. There were a couple of moments there, for example, when U9 went charging in onto dogfights. He force-staffed up onto the high ground, prevented that kill from happening, and meanwhile, the rest of VGP, they don't mess around. They're not going to try and kill the very, very tanky Bristleback. They rush the back lines, find those kills, and ended up taking this game.
I love how
handedly.
Vici and Viper have 2/3 of the team's death. They both had 10 deaths apiece with 30 deaths total on the VGM potential side. The Vici especially struggled this game, but hey, they made up for it later on. And well, the Morphling, definitely the key hero as far as locking heroes down in most of these fights, it felt like.
I feel like it's very hard to call between Dogfights and Lin as MVP for this game, because Dogfights made a lot of really impressive plays. I think there were 2 or 3 stolen walls. There was the stolen Sonic Wave. A lot of his movement as well. Sort of, he brought the game back a little bit after things went badly. And some of that was because he picked up that solo kill on the Bristle mid lane when they went diving for the Viper and got level 4 very quickly off of that. But he kept the snowball rolling and really got a lot done. So
again, TongFu, they go off to a good start and then it crumble. I don't know.
It kind of falls apart.
It's been a kind of shaky tournament for them. It has definitely, and by this point you're already knocked out, so you're thinking like, good start. They're just playing some Dota, probably having some fun, and I mean, you can't really take the result in their mid to late game play too much to heart since they're out knocked out. But that does it. These two teams both knocked out from the China qualifiers. We've got one more game up on this stream coming up next, which is, I think, TongFu versus CDEC going to be on this stream. So guys, stick around. We're going to have about a 5-10 minute break before we get into that last game. He's Baseskip, I'm Gods, and you guys are watching TI.